Hello, hello, West Point family. This is Joe Bianca. Different face than usually looks at you, but our buddy Jeff Lifson, my friend and yours, is at Churchill Downs today, kicking off Derby week. We've got Battle of Normandy running in a little less than an hour, so he's holding down the fort over there. But I am thrilled to be joined for this Tuesdays at 2 by our good friend Arnaud Delacour. Arnaud, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, guys.
It's very exciting to talk to you. We're this is Tuesdays at 2. If you're a newer partner, this is something that we do usually through the spring and the summer. We have one of our trainers come on, answer a couple of questions, talk about the horses that we have with them, and Arnaud is as good as it gets. So we're excited to kick this off. Just a little background: Arnaud is a native of France. He's based at Fairhill Training Center in Maryland, which, if you haven't seen it, haven't had a chance to visit, is horse heaven. It's a tremendous place, very serene, great place to train horses, multiple different services and tracks. He's finishing up another strong winner at Tampa Bay Downs, winning at a 20% clip. Arnaud has been training for West Point for about 2 years now. Before he opened his own stable, he had long stints working under Christophe Clement, another good friend of the West Point operation, and in France with Elaine de Royer Desprez. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Arnaud?
Almost. You almost got it.
Give it to me then. Give me the best pronunciation.
Alain de Royer-Dupré.
The Roya Dupree. Okay. All right. That's why we're glad to have you here. Arnaud truly works as a team with his wife Lee, who has trained herself, rode as a jockey for a while, and first came to Fairhill as an exercise rider for Graham Motion. Arnaud, could you tell our folks about Lee and the integral role that she plays in your operation? It's pretty much like having two really sharp trainers at the helm together.
Absolutely. I mean, we're really like, she's really hand down as well. Especially like the morning she's here every day. She rides. I don't ride anymore. I used to, but I've got other stuff to do on the ground. That seems to be important as well. She loves riding, and she's like 50% part of the business with me. We make decisions together, and I really appreciate and listen to her when she has something to say because she's got great inputs.
Absolutely. And I remember her training for Lael Stable a little while back. Very, very sharp trainer. Always had to pay attention to her horses as a handicapper. So we're very, very blessed to have both of you working on these horses together. So let's get to it. Let's get to the horses. We only have a couple to talk about, but it's pretty much all good news. So we're excited to talk about them. We'll start with Bassanio. Bassanio is a 5-year-old gelding. He's a British import. We found him at as a young horse at a sale in England and brought him across the Atlantic before he'd ever raced. And once he got going with Arnaud, he's been really steady. 2 wins, 2 seconds, 2/3 from 10 career starts. And to me, he's coming off probably his best race to date, definitely his gamest race to date. He won an allowance on April 20th at Tampa in his first start of the year. If you haven't seen the replay, go back and watch it. It was a very, very game performance, had to fight off a horse to his outside. He had a bit of a winter break before that, and that sure seemed to pay off. Arnaud, you mentioned how well he was training leading up to the race. What kind of path do you see for him going forward?
What is I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. Because last year it looked like it was tailing off at the end of the year. So we just like regrouped, gave him a break, and he really came back. Like every single one of his breeds at Tampa has been like wow. So I was pretty confident that he would be competitive. I didn't know if he was going to win, and he didn't win by much. But that was a race coming back, so there's always room for improvement. So I was really happy to see that, and it make me think that he'll be competitive in the Mid Atlantic at the next level allowance, which will be the two other then, which is not an easy race to win, and it might take him a couple of times to win it, but I think it'd be very competitive, and he came back very well from the race. He's here at Fairhill now. He shipped shortly after the race from Tampa to Fairhill, and he feels at home at Fairhill. He's just going in the run pen, happy horse. He's a delight to train.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to follow up on that because I mentioned Fairhill and what a great place it is to train. Like, what are some of the benefits that you have and you've seen from training horses at Fairhill?
Well, especially in the summer, you've got options because you can go trail riding, train them on the grass, different type of track, the dirt, the tapeta, and also, well, they can spend a lot of time outside. Um, the spring grass is always like the best, for horses. So he loves like being outside and eating grass and just being a horse for a little bit. And I think that's the key. about Fade is that we can treat them a little more like a horse in the wild, if I may say, you know. But now he's in great form and looks very happy.
And everybody knows that like a big part of this science is keeping the horses happy. It's not just about the physical, it's also about the mental. And just one more question on Bassanio. Do you think he's the kind of horse that maybe has gets a benefit from having a little bit more time off between races than the average horse?
I think so because all the time we've come back quick just because we thought we had a good spot. He kind of run like a little flat. So I wouldn't be in a hurry to run him back. Just want to have the right spot, which probably it's a little tricky. The turf season in the Mid Atlantic start really in the middle to late May, with all the options we can have between Monmouth Park, Philadelphia, Delaware, Pimlico. So, you know, I don't think that we need to rush. There are going to be plenty of races all summer. I just would like him to tell us when he's ready to go and you know, find a race then.
Absolutely. Well, it was great to get him to the winner's circle, especially as a 5-year-old. Let's move on to a 3-year-old that we have with Arnaud. Independence Avenue is a 3-year-old filly that we sent to Arnaud. She was a bargain buy out of the OBS June sale last summer. We picked her up for 60,000. She broke her maiden impressively second time out. She followed that up with an allowance win at Arnaud's winter base at Tampa last November. We tried putting her in a stake, going a mile at Gulfstream this winter. Didn't really work out. Arnaud's recommendation after that was to freshen her up for the spring and the summer, where, you know, as he's saying now, there starts to be a much more of an abundance of stakes opportunities for 3-year-olds, 3-year-old turf sprinters, routers. You know, we had a spot picked out last weekend at Woodbine. She came up with a little bit of swelling on a leg on entry day, so Arnaud was forced to scratch her, and we just focused on dealing with that. How has she looked the last few days after that slight hiccup?
Perfect, perfect. It was just bad timing. She went in the wrong pen. She had a, you know, she hit herself, had a little bit of an abrasion, and it just blew up. I was not worried about it, but you cannot send them, you know, in a 10 hours van ride and hope that for the best, they need to be 100%. So we had to scratch. I mean, we didn't even enter, but we had to skip the race, which is kind of a mess because to me, it was a perfect spot. It wasn't especially like, I'm not saying it wasn't a good race because the winner could be a very nice filly. It was only our second start. She was an expensive Uncle Mo filly from the 2-year-old sales, but I think she could have been right there with her. But that's fine, you know, that's the way it is. The timing was wrong, but she came back very well. So I'm expecting her to brace probably toward the end of the week. She missed like 2-3 days of training. And then we'll see. We'll map up a plan. There's a few stakes coming up. We just need to see which one's going to be the best fit.
And, you know, I mentioned that she had won at a mile over the fall, but it does seem like she's a little bit better going a one-turn sprint. How, you know, does that match up with what you see with her? Do you think that she's ultimately going to be better going shorter?
Absolutely, absolutely. When she won going a mile, she really had everything her way, meaning she went in front, slow pace, nobody bothered her. So that's the perfect scenario. That's most likely not going to happen again if you run in Stakes Company against Holder. And she ran very well at Gulfstream. She just, I think, she just had a distance limitation. And 6, 7, anywhere between 5, 6, 7 is going to be fine for her. Just the two turn on the turf it's a little long. That's all. But she came back from a little break. We gave her a breather, and she was working very well. I mean, showing a lot of speed in her work and natural speed. I mean, I don't especially try to make her sharp. That's her. You know, she's just happy. She runs. She's got tactical speed. So excited, and hopefully we'll find some good spot this summer.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm dreaming of Saratoga with her. Those 5.5 turf sprints, I think, could hit her right between the eyes. She's a beautiful filly, also very popular with the partners as well. And you've done an absolutely excellent job with her so far. So hopefully lots more good memories to come with her. And then the last horse we're going to talk about, I told you it was short but sweet, but this is a newer horse that's coming to Arnaud. This is the newcomer from Europe. This is the upstart colt that we found at the Tattersall's Craven sale about 10 days ago through Kip Elser. Now, if you remember, Kip Elser was the guy who found Stretch Ride, and he's a well-respected bloodstock agent, has worked with Terry for a long time. He found Stretch Ride at the Arcana sale last June in France, and it was almost like, what is this street sense doing here in France breezing on the grass at the Blues Up sale. So that's why you got to have eyes all over the world to scout talent. And he's obviously become a nice horse for us. He's won two. He was on the Derby Trail, and he'll be back, I think, making some noise in the 3-year-old division. But to the upstart colt, motored over the grass in that breeze, terrific, nice, hardy horse who we're down to the last few bits and pieces available in him. We're about 20% left, maybe a little bit less. He's scheduled to arrive at Arnaud's barn at Fairhill in mid-May. Arnaud, you had a chance to look at the Colts breeze and the profile from the Tattersall sale. What was your initial impression on him?
So I was pretty impressed with the Braves. I mean, it was really balanced, which you never know because it's not the same kind of ground that we get here, where so it's a little softer. There is more grass, so it can be a little bit disturbing for horses. And I thought he handled everything very well and stayed balanced, which was like it's always a good sign.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he's, like I said with Stretch Ride, he's got a dirt pedigree, but you can tell that he can motor over the grass. He's a West Virginia bred. So Arnaud is usually in the mid Atlantic. So there could be some state bred opportunities for him as well. So, Arnaud, you have a lot of experience bringing over horses from Europe to America. What are some of the tricks of the trade, perhaps, to get them to readjust? I mean, this horse hasn't been racing in Europe, but he's been training in Europe. What do you do? What are some of the things you do when they come over here to kind of get them adjusted to the American style of training and racing?
Um, well, for a 2-year-old like him, I mean, I'm not sure if I'll do anything different than what I do with my other 2-year-old, because I mean, as you say, that's a very early stage. One of the main difference as well is that in Europe, for example, with 2-year-old, they're never going to run. They're never going to have to go on a term before September if you want. So it's a little easier. They need to be a little less professional because they just go like 4, 5, 6 furlongs straight, or even 7. So they don't know that. They don't know how to accelerate in the turn and those kind of things. So that's pretty much what we do, and we have to be progressive about it when we brace in the morning to make sure that they're probably going to be a little bit at first. The typical European, they'll break a little slow, and then in the turn, they'll be outrun. And by the time they find their balance, they'll come with a big kick. So basically, we just try to teach them to switch lead and make sure they're balanced in the turn. That's one of the main difference, I would say.
Gotcha. And just for everybody's education, he's going to come to the USA on May 14th. He's going to arrive on May 15th at Indianapolis. He's at Horseshoe Indianapolis. He's going to quarantine at Churchill Downs for 2 days before he heads over to Arnaud Delacour at Fairhill. So I think I'm looking at the numbers now. We're actually down under 15% left on him. So he's a really, really nice horse with a lot of opportunities on dirt and turf. So if you're thinking of getting involved, I think you definitely should. And we're excited to get that horse to Arnaud and see what he can do with him. One last horse, I lied. There's one last horse we want to mention very quickly, which is Medallia. This is the 2-year-old Medallia Doro filly earmarked for Arnaud's barn that we got at Keeneland September last year. She did some training at Iceman Equine in Ocala over the winter. She got some time to cool down inflammation in her suspensories. So she's going to be checked up in the next couple of days to see if she's ready to resume training. So that'll hopefully put her on a timeline to move up to Arnaud sometime this winter. I know it's been a little bit and you haven't seen her in the flesh, but Arnaud, just can you talk a little bit about that filly and what your initial impressions were of her from the sale?
But I really like her, but she always looked like by pedigree and but just by her look that she was not going to be like an early 2-year-old. So that's a filly that was going to take time to develop anyway, which is fine. But it's the kind of horse that in my mind I was like, well, I probably won't see her in the spring. She's going to be kind of a late, summer fall type of filly. That's exactly what she seems to be. They have to work through those baby issues and hopefully she does. But I thought she had a very nice top line and was moving very well. So when horses show you that athleticism, usually they keep it. It's just a matter of doing the right thing and make sure we don't do too much too early with that type.
Yep, absolutely. And that's one of the great things about the West Point operation. Have guys like Doc Iseman, one of the best in the business, with his eyes on her, and he was able to take her, back her off a little bit before anything serious developed. So we're looking forward to getting her in Arnaud's barn later this summer. We'll open all phone lines up for questions now. You can chat, you can Q&A, you can raise your hand, you can just unmute yourself and ask Arnaud if you have a question for him for any of the horses or just a question in general. My question for you, Arnaud, is, you've been doing this a decent amount of time now. You've developed a really good relationship in the business. What are some of the horses that you think have helped put you on the map, to where you are now? I think one of the top trainers on the East Coast.
Um, it's hard to say. I mean, obviously, winning grade ones means a lot in our business. I mean, that's like the summum. But just horses in general that compete like, at a good level consistently, stay sound. I'm not going to say name because that would be unfair. But so the client that we have, we have to be very grateful to be able to. We trained for the Jackson, for the late Mr. Firestone, for the late Catherine Wills. They were, they're people that really were supportive, and we owe them a lot. So that's probably the key, the honor behind us, and providing a quality of stock every year after year. That's probably the key.
Yep. No, absolutely. And we appreciate the West Point partners, as always, for helping us do what we do. Let's see if we have any questions. I got a question from Jim, who says, Arnaud, are you going to be up at Saratoga at all this summer? Everybody always wants to know about Saratoga. It's the destination, obviously, for the summer. Are you going to have a string up there? Are you going to ship in and out? Do you have any plans?
Most likely not, because I like to keep my options open, and we have plenty of options everywhere at that time of the year, including in at Colonial Down, those kind of places where the money is pretty good. So, I mean, for the right race, I'll be there, but I don't think that I will stable there.
Gotcha.
Remain to be seen, because if I feel that we have like 10 horses that fits and they should go and spend the summer there, I mean, I will, but at the moment, it's a little early to say.
Gotcha. Got one more question here from Betty, who wants to know, who's your Derby pick? Another thing that's on everybody's mind this week. What's your early impressions of this Saturday's Derby, Arnaud?
Well, I like Sierra Leone. I mean, I'm not sure that he's got an inside course, so he's going to have to negotiate a trip. But obviously, he's a very talented horse with a lot of heart. And look, he can overcome, a sloppy track, a trip, and everything. So he will be my pick. But of course, fierceness is like very classy, and when it's good, is very good. But same story, he's going to have to overcome a trip and make a trip for himself.
Absolutely. All right. I think we got a question from Jeff Silver, who had his hand raised. Jeff, Big Daddy, where you at? You got a question? Jeff always has his hand raised. You can unmute yourself, bud.
Yeah, Joey B.
What's up, man?
Good to hear from you. Doing
Absolutely.
a good job.
Thank you, brother.
Listen,
What's your
Arnaud,
question?
hey, Arnaud, how you doing?
Doing well, AJ.
All right, good. Listen, you're going to be at the Simonium sale?
I will be, yes.
All right, well, we got to get you another horse, okay? Don't be shy. Just approach Terry, the rest of them, tell them you like a horse and whatever. It's like seems to be sometimes trainers come up and act enthusiastic about a horse we buy, they get them, okay? So, Independence Avenue, is that horse going to run on May 12th?
At Belmont?
At Aqueduct in that stakes, or?
Oh, yeah, Belmont, sorry. Belmont at Aqueduct. Well, the problem is we don't have that many opportunities. It's either going to be the Belmont race or the Churchill race. Make a lot more sense to run at Belmont and stay at Belmont. I'm just going to work on the nomination and see if it makes sense, but most probably that's going to be our spot.
Anything at Pimlico that might be available?
For her, well, she would have to run two other dance, so a second level allowance, and you have to run against Holder. So it's always like a big gap to run against Holder, especially in a two other dance. So I'm not saying that wouldn't be okay, but it might come up a little salty for a 3-year-old.
All right. Well, listen, you got this new West Virginia bred. Have you been running at Charlestown?
Sure, Charlestown is it's always a fun place to go. I actually won a race last year. It was one of my favorites.
All right. So let me ask you another question. You got in, I like to travel with the horses. So like when I got trainers that have turf horses, if the, I like to ask the trainers, like, if they come off the turf, are you willing to run them on a tapeta or on the dirt, or like someone like Independence Avenue? I guess Bassanio, no, I don't know, or Bassanio
Well,
might.
it really depends on the horse. They have to show us that they've got the right attributes to run on the dirt. A filly like I mean Bassanio's work until this winter at Tampa were always average on the dirt. I mean, he was a horse that I was breezing exclusively on Tapeda, because when we breezed from the gate last year, I mean, when he was coming along, I think that his breeze on the dirt were very average. So that's not really a horse that I would say we need to run, but everything is a question of competition. Sometimes a race come off the turf, and then you're like, well, it's a race that he can win. So I'm not saying no, but it's a case by case type of thing.
Well, thanks, Jeff. I was almost
All
about to
right,
hit
one
you.
other thing, just
All right, Jeff. Well, you got one more, buddy. Go ahead.
all right, it's not really a question, but listen, I don't know, Arnaud. Every horse that I've had with him from West Point, he's won with, and I suspect that that's pretty much with all the West Point horses, and all of them have been reclamation projects except for Independence Avenue, which was not an expensive horse. And I don't know, it's just if you're on the hedge about buying in on this West Virginia horse, I strongly recommend that you get in on this one. First of all, that horse, West Virginia, has a lot of big money restricted races, and I think the full brother of that horse has never finished worse than fourth, and he's run like 30 some odd times. So they must be hardy horses that are going to give you 8-10 runs a year. And Arnaud's tremendous. So like, that horse is inexpensive. You may just want to sell this horse out real quick for Arnaud, and then hopefully he'll get some more at the Timonium sale.
Mike
Thank you.
drop. Mike drop from Jeff Silver. No, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like the horses obviously have us a lot of attributes and a lot of potential, but also I agree with Jeff that Arnaud gets the most out of all the horses that we send him, and this is a really, really nice one of the best that we've sent to his barn so far. So yeah, fully agree with Jeff. There's only a little bit left on him, so thank you, my man Jeff Silver, for chiming in, and thank you, Arnaud Delacour, for making the time to come speak with the West Point partners today. Keep up the great work, and enjoy the Derby.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Great to have you, and thanks to the partners for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Tuesdays at 2.
Guys.